Have you ever thought about the concept of owning nothing and still being happy? It's a question that might seem absurd on the surface, but in the world we're living in, it's becoming more and more relevant. The dynamics of ownership, of possession, of having something to call your own are changing rapidly. This is not a random phenomenon, but a shift driven by powerful forces that are reshaping our reality. In the next few minutes, we will delve deeper into this intriguing concept. The adage, "You will own nothing and be happy," might sound like a utopian dream, but what does it really mean? This phrase, seemingly paradoxical, is actually a reflection of the significant shifts happening in our society today. Let's break it down. The first part, "you will own nothing," refers to a trend that's been picking up steam over the past decade or so. It's the idea of access over ownership, fueled by the rise of the sharing economy and the digital revolution. From cars to homes and even clothing, it seems we're renting, sharing, and streaming more than ever before. Why buy a car when you can hail a ride with the tap of an app? Why purchase a vacation home when you can just rent a picturesque Airbnb for the weekend? Why clutter your wardrobe with clothes when you can rent the latest fashion pieces and return them when you're done? And why buy CDs or DVDs when you can stream your favorite songs and movies on demand? This shift from ownership to access is being driven by numerous factors. For one, it's more economically efficient. Many of us find it more practical to pay for access to goods and services only when we need them, rather than shouldering the cost of ownership. Plus, it's more environmentally friendly. Sharing resources means less waste, less production, and a smaller carbon footprint. Now let's look at the second part of the adage, and be happy. Does this shift make us happier? Well, that's a more complex question. On one hand, the freedom from the burdens of ownership can be liberating. It offers flexibility, convenience, and the chance to experience more with less. On the other hand, it can also lead to feelings of impermanence and insecurity, as we lose the stability and control that comes with ownership. So, our lifestyles are changing, but does this make us happier? This question is something we'll continue to grapple with as we navigate this brave new world of access over ownership. What role does big business and tech play in this shift towards owning nothing? You might be wondering. Well, let's dive in. Big business and tech companies are at the heart of this transformation. They are not just passive observers, they are the architects of this change. They've seen the future, and it's one where we own less, but consume more, and they're molding our society to fit that vision. Take a look at the rise of subscription services, Netflix, Spotify, Adobe, the list goes on. These companies have shifted the paradigm from ownership to access. You don't own the movies you watch or the music you listen to anymore. You just borrow them for a while. The same goes for software. You don't buy a copy of Photoshop, you rent access to it, and it's not just digital goods. Physical products are following the same trajectory. Clothing rental services like Rent the Runway, car-sharing platforms like Zipcar, and even furniture rental companies like Feather are all part of the trend. The shared economy is expanding, and it's being driven by big tech and business. But why are they pushing for this? The answer is simple: recurring revenue. When you buy a product, the company makes a profit once. But when you subscribe to a service, they earn every month. It's a steady stream of income that's far more predictable and sustainable. And they're not stopping at products and services. They're even trying to change the way we think about ownership. Tech companies, in particular, are championing the idea of access over ownership. They're selling us on the convenience, the flexibility, the cost savings. And in many ways, they're right. But there's a flip side to that coin. But what happens when we surrender our ownership rights to these corporations? That's a question we all need to consider as we navigate this brave new world of borrowing and renting. It's a question we'll delve into in the next scene, so stay tuned and let's continue to unravel this complex issue together. While this shift might seem convenient, it carries unseen consequences. Let's dwell into the potential downsides of not owning anything. It's easy to be lured by the convenience of digital access and forget the value of ownership, but there are vital aspects we tend to overlook. First, let's talk about data privacy. When we use digital services, we trade our personal information for access. We give away our preferences, habits, and patterns, which in turn are used to tailor advertising, influencing our choices and decisions. Our data becomes a commodity bought and sold by big tech companies. We lose control over our personal information. and that can be a heavy price to pay. Next, consider the lack of control. When you own an item, you have the final say over it. You decide when and how to use it. But when you only have access to it, the rules can change at any time. The provider can modify the terms of service, or worse, discontinue the service altogether. You're at their mercy, and that's a precarious position. And then there's the dependence on corporations. We become reliant on these companies to provide the services we need. If they decide to hike prices or if their systems crash, we're left in the lurch. We're tied to their whims and vulnerabilities. We're no longer self-reliant. Instead, we're tethered to corporate behemoths. Finally, there's the issue of wealth accumulation. When we don't own assets, we lose an essential path to wealth creation. Real estate, stocks, even small personal businesses. These are all ways individuals can build wealth. But when everything is rented or subscribed to, we're left with nothing tangible to pass on to future generations. So, while the idea of owning nothing and being happy sounds appealing, it's essential to remember that there are significant trade-offs. We're navigating uncharted territory here, and it's crucial to be aware of the implications. Now that we've understood the implications, what can we do about it? So, how can we navigate this changing landscape without losing our happiness? Well, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to that question, but there are practical steps we can all take to regain control and maintain happiness in this new era. Firstly, we need to be mindful consumers. In a world where big businesses and tech giants are working together to shape our lifestyles, it's crucial to understand the power of our choices. Every purchase we make, every service we subscribe to, is a vote for the kind of world we want to live in. Do we opt for convenience over control, or do we value independence and ownership? The choices aren't always straightforward, but being aware that we have a choice is a powerful first step. Secondly, let's talk about data. In the digital age, data is currency. It's what fuels the algorithms that predict our behaviors, shape our choices, and ultimately control our lives. Protecting our data isn't just about maintaining privacy, it's about maintaining autonomy. So learn about encryption, use secure networks, and be smart about the information you share online. Lastly, make informed decisions. We live in an age of information overload, but not all information is created equal. Be discerning about the sources you trust. Read widely, question everything, and never stop learning. The more informed we are, the better decisions we can make, and the more control we can retain over our lives. Taking action doesn't mean rejecting technology or progress. It means being active participants in shaping our futures rather than passive consumers of whatever future big businesses and tech giants decide for us. Remember, the goal is not to resist change, but to adapt to it in a way that serves our best interests. Be savvy, be informed, and be proactive. Let's navigate this changing landscape together and create a future where we may not own everything, but we can definitely be happy. Let's sum up what we've learned today. We started with a provoking question about the adage, "You will own nothing and be happy," a concept that is becoming increasingly prevalent in our society. We unraveled this statement, exploring its origin and what it truly implies, a world where tangible ownership is replaced by access and experiences. Then we delved into the role of big businesses and tech companies in this transformation. Their collaborative efforts are steering us towards a future where we rent rather than own, where we subscribe rather than purchase. It's a paradigm shift that is subtly changing the way we live and interact with the world around us. We also examined the unseen consequences of this trend. While it offers convenience, it also poses challenges to personal freedom and autonomy. It redefines the concept of possession and alters the dynamics of consumerism. Finally, we discussed ways to take action. Understanding this trend is the first step. Being mindful of our choices, questioning the status quo, and staying informed are critical. It's about balancing the benefits of this shift with the need to maintain our individuality and personal agency. As we navigate this new reality, remember to stay informed, stay mindful, and most importantly, stay happy.